I invite you to join me in Genesis chapter 12. The idea of to jump, so often it's a matter of trust. We're going to look over the next several times together what it means to trust the Lord. And will you trust God when you don't know where He's exactly taking you? Will you trust God when He doesn't always tell you why? He just says, trust me. You see, we live in a time and a moment, I believe, that when somebody says, oh, just trust me, the last thing in the world we do is what? We're not going to trust Him. And yet, often, that's exactly what God is saying. Trust me. I'm not going to tell you where I want you to go. That's today's lesson. I'm not going to tell you why I want you to obey. That's next week's lesson. I'm not even going to tell you how you're going to accomplish the task. I want you to trust me. And that's hard for us because we live in a I believe it when I see it time. We live in that moment where trust is hard. But when God says to jump, what are you going to do? Are you going to jump? You see, right now, we've had a wonderful opportunity to pray together, to celebrate together, to praise together, to sing together, and we are all chomping at the bit. We're, yes, I'll jump. But what about tomorrow? What about Thursday? How about when what God is asking you to jump is something that it's a hurdle you've never thought possible? Are we going to trust? See, that's the ultimate issue is, am I going to trust? As a kid, I got in the car one day and Mom and Dad said, just get in the car, we're going to go for a drive. And so I got in the car and we were going to go for a drive. And I had some books and that's what I did. I sat in the back seat, I would read, or I'd lay down and I'd read, or I'd lay in the floorboard and I'd read. So obviously I'm now giving my age away because, there's no way you can do that at all today. I'm really sorry for the shackles that our children must be in this day and time. It was a much freer time in the 70s. It was a glorious moment of just being able to roam around freely like Southwest Airlines in the back end of you can now roam about the cabin. Anyway, so we would go for a drive, and we were going on a drive this one time, and I got my books and I was ready to go, and I didn't have a care in the world. Sure, we're going to go for a drive. A little while later, Mom would say, hey, look out the window. I want you to be looking for something. And I was looking out the window, and I'm like, I don't see anything, Mom. She said, just keep looking. And Dad rounded a corner, and as we rounded that corner, I saw for the very first time Magic Kingdom. It was the most glorious sight to a 7-year-old that I can imagine is seeing Magic Kingdom. It was great. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. Traveling as a kid is you get in a car, you go. Well, you fast forward a few years. You fast forward 25 years. And we have our first child, and we want to go for a trip. My wife, at the time when we got married, she brought into the marriage a Honda Civic Coupe. It wasn't a sedan. It was 2 doors. Was it 4 doors? Yeah. Felt like 2 doors. And I just could not fathom how much stuff it took to get a 1-year-old out of the door and into the car to go for an overnight trip. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, I really thought that the back fender was going to drag the ground. I mean, I had to put my best packing skills to work, to fit. I mean, I'd get everything in, and there'd be 3 more items that I'd unload it all. And then I'd put it all back in, and there was 5 more items, and I could swear it was multiplying on the ground. And I'd pull it all back, and I'd put it back in, and I've got it. And then I heard from inside the house, "Hey, you got any more room in the car?" "No, I don't have any more room in the car." "Yes, dear, I have more room in the car. Let's move some stuff out." "Don't worry, I don't need a change of clothes. Let's just get all the stuff for Sam in the car." Oh my gosh. What a difference it makes when you look at traveling as a kid versus an adult. As a kid, it's all about, yeah, wherever, whatever, I don't care, this is awesome, just not going to be at the house. Let's go, this is going to be great. Of course, that was before shackles and seatbelts, restrictions. Take a mechanical engineering degree to figure out how to do a car seat. I mean, not only did you have to secure it to the car, you had to secure the child to the seat, and then you had to pray it was all right, only to go to the fire department for them to go, "Man, you screwed that up real bad." I'm like, what? It's a whole different ball game when you're traveling as a kid versus traveling as an adult. And when God calls us to go someplace, which one are we going to go as? Which one are we going to go as? Because when God calls us to go, as he's going to call Abram to go in our passage today in Genesis chapter 12, you see, God says to go, and he wants us to be the kid in that moment. He wants us to be the child. He wants us to jump up and down and say, "That's great, that's awesome. I'm going to beat you to the car and we're going to go. This is awesome, this is wonderful." But oftentimes we go, "How much stuff am I going to have to take? Where am I going? Why am I going there? What if I don't want to go there? What if I have a better idea?" And meanwhile, God is saying, "I want you to go." And he wants us to be the kid, but we often are the adult, aren't we? We're often that one who needs to know all the details. Well, how much do I need to pack? Well, what am I supposed to take? Is it going to be hot or is it going to be cold? Is it going to be rainy or is it going to be dry? How long is this? I mean, do I need to make sure to factor in bathroom breaks in the process? Well, hold on a minute, I got to get out my phone and make sure that I know the proper pathway to get to where we're going, because, I always get about 4 options, and so I need to know which one I need to take to make sure I get there. And meanwhile, I can just imagine God going, "Oh, gosh. I just said go. I just go. I want you to go." Jesus later would say, "Follow me." We're going to follow him as a kid, or we're going to follow him as the adult. Now, wait a minute. You see, some just followed him. They followed him like a kid, and they just dropped what they had, and they walked with him. They dropped whatever they were doing, and they followed him. And others would come up to Jesus, and they would say, "Wait a minute. I've got this to handle." "Well, I've got this to handle." "Well, I would, but," "Well, I'd love to, however." And Jesus was like, "Hey, train's leaving. Are you going to go or not?" And see, so we have to evaluate today. Am I going to go as a kid when Jesus and God calls us to go? Or am I going to be that adult that has to know all the details about everything? Now, I can already see some of you going, "Yeah, I need all the details, Lord." You see, when we commit to follow him, he doesn't always give us those answers. In fact, I would suggest to you that rarely is he giving you all of the answers. He says, "Go." And we get hesitant. And I got to thinking, why does God not give us all the answers? I mean, why would he not? When in verse 1, when he says, the Lord said to Abram, go out from your land, your relatives, and your father's house to the land that I will show you. Why didn't he just tell him where he was going? And so it got me to thinking, why doesn't God tell us exactly where we're going? I mean, he says to go, and he'll say, get ready, get prepared. I mean, even in my house on any given day, if I say, hey, let's get ready, we're going to get in the car, the number one response I get, where? As if to say that, you know what, I'm hedging my bets because what I have planned may be far better than what you have planned. Oops. Hold on, is that what we do with the Lord? Lord says, hey, get ready because I'm getting ready to do something. We're getting ready to go someplace. And we're like, okay, I need to know where, because what I've got going on over here, I may prefer over what option you're giving me. I don't know if Abraham did that or Abram at the time. I don't know if God knew that he would do that, but I think God obviously knows humanity and he doesn't always tell us where. I think sometimes because we won't go. We wouldn't go. We would say, well, I don't like that location. I've got preconceived ideas about that location. I remember one time we were living up in Perry, Oklahoma, just outside of Stillwater. Go Pokes, by the way, this weekend. And we were living just outside of Stillwater, and I had somebody call up and say, hey, I'd like to submit your resume to this particular church. And it happened to be in Norman, Oklahoma. And I was like, I just can't do that. You see, that's what we do sometimes, though, isn't it? I mean, God says, I want you to go. Why doesn't he tell us? Because we might have a preconceived idea about where we're going, and we suddenly shut off God, and we say, I'm not going there. Do you know where that is? I don't want to go there. I'm comfortable where I am right now. I don't want to go there. We do that. We can do it physically. We can do it emotionally. We can do it philosophically. But we do it. I think this is why God doesn't always tell us where we're going, because of our preconceived ideas, of our prejudices about where we might go. Well, do you know what kind of people live in Norman, Oklahoma, God? I mean, it's pagans. I can't go there. I mean, you pick your place. For some of you, it'd be like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to Austin. They're weird, and they like it that way. For some of you, it may be someplace else. So for some of you, it may be into the desert of West Texas. Some of you may be the trees of East Texas. For some of you, it may be the humidity of South Texas. So for some of you, it could be any number of things. For some of you, it could be just a school district that you're rivals with that you don't know. There's no way I'm going there, God. Who knows? But we do it, and we have these preconceived ideas of what it's going to be like. We have these prejudices that we set up, and we say, oh no, there's no way I can go there. I could never get along with those people. And I don't know that Abram did that, but what I know is God didn't tell him why. And I know that God doesn't always tell us why. And I have a feeling I know why God doesn't tell us why, and it's for these things. Because we have, well, I don't want to go there. I don't like that location. I don't like the people there. Well, you know, I really don't want to go anyway, God, because I like what I'm doing. I like the job that I have. I like the home that I'm living in. I like the friendships that I have. I like the plans. I like knowing what's coming up, God, because you wired me. Let's see if we can get that. But God doesn't always tell us that way. And he doesn't negotiate. Have you figured that out? How many of you in the last year have tried to negotiate with the Lord? I have. That's why my hand's up. I'm not doing it to model for you what I want you to do. Although it's good if you would. You know, we do. Well, you know, we barter. Well, what about this? Well, what about, well, I'll go here. And God's like, no, I want you over here. Or sometimes he just says, I want your heart. And I want to take you someplace. But you're going to have to trust me. Will you jump? God says, jump. Is your response, how high? Or is your response, what kind of jump? When are we jumping? Where are we jumping to? How long am I going to have to jump? I know for me sometimes it's the latter more than the former. So the Lord said to Abram, go out from your land, your relatives, and your father's house to the land that I will show you. So God wanted Abram to go out from your land. You know, we don't necessarily understand the idea of land, but land at that time is a sign of wealth. It's a sign of home. God's saying, I want you to leave what you have grown accustomed to and go someplace else. I want you to leave this area of convenience and comfort to you, and I want you to go with me someplace else, because what I have for you is better, even if you don't understand it. Even if you don't really get it, this is what I want you to do. So go out from your land, from your relatives, from your father's house. So I want you to leave your wealth, your comfort, and your family. That's not good marketing. I mean, if you think about it. But that's exactly what God says sometimes. I want you to leave all that you've known because I want to take you someplace else. And so what we do in our 21st century selves, we say, God, you need to try that again because I don't like what you're presenting. I need you to present it better. Do it better. You can do better. To which God comes back and says, I want you to leave everything that you've known and trust me. Are you going to trust me? Are you going to trust me? And we have all of this stuff going on in our minds about, well, you know, that's what that salesman said. You see the product I received. Well, that's what somebody said. They said, trust me, and then they broke my heart. Well, he said, trust me, and now I'm financially ruined. They said, trust me, and now I'm this. They said, trust me. The doctor said, trust me. And now they're dead. So God, if you're going to say trust me, I got a lot of bent up feelings about that. I'm pretty twisted off about that. It's where we are, isn't it? It's where we live. It's where many of us reside, is right there. And God still says, will you trust me? It's all about trust. This relationship with God's all about trust. Will you trust him? You know, he may not always take you from everything that you've known. But the question is this, would I be willing if he did? You know, the number one prayer of our graduating class out of the ministry department of our university, for many of us, if we were honest, the number one prayer out of our class was, God, don't send me to Africa. I'll go anywhere. You know, and you know, that sounds funny, and you have people that always kind of joke about those things. But, you know, that was just kind of our thinking. You know, God, I'll trust you to a point. But you want me to go, that's going to be hard. But this is what God is asking of us, to trust him. If we don't know where he's going, will we trust him anyway? To the place that I will show you. Wait, where exactly? And I've always thought this to be an interesting conversation back home. When Abram came back to Sarai, honey, God said we got to go. Mm-hmm. No, that's all he said. He said we got to go. I need a little bit more, Abram. Now, I know culturally she would have just said yes, but I know culturally today we don't. Go to the land that I'll show you. Have you ever wanted to just interrupt God? Right in the middle? I can imagine Abram in this moment, and God starts out, and I know I'm guilty of this. God will start out on impressing something, or I'm reading in God's Word, and He's revealing something to me, and I'm like, wait. And He just keeps going. I'm like, no, wait. I got to catch it. Wait. What did you just say? You want me to do what? You want me to go where? And yet, we don't see a pause in God here, do we? God's like, no. He just keeps going. We want to interrupt God. We want to stop and get clarification. And God's like, no, I just need you to trust me. Listen to all the words that I'm saying. Listen to all of it before reacting. And He says, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And Abram didn't even understand this. He had no kids at the time, and yet God is saying, I'll make you into this great nation. Israel as a nation was required. Look at this. Israel as a nation was required for God's plan to be produced, because it's out of Israel that you get the 12 tribes, and it's out of one of those 12 tribes that we get Jesus. And if Abram was not made into the great nation of Israel, you don't get the 12 tribes, out of which you get Judah, out of which you get Jesus, out of which you sit here saved by the grace of Him who died for you, who knew no sin, that became sin, so that you could be reconciled back to a holy Father. You see, I'm going to make you a great nation. Abram had no, what do you mean a great nation? He would later have a conversation with God. I have no kids. You know that, right? And God said, I'm going to make you into a great nation. Out of you will be a great nation. Out of you will come a great name. It was Abram, and he was the choice of God to implement this plan. God could have chosen anybody. God chose Abram to produce a plan. And my friends, when God comes knocking on your heart's door and says, I need you to get up, pack up, and go, we don't always know why, and we don't know where. And I'm going to tell you, what we need to rely on and understand is, if God comes knocking, there's a plan and a process He's already putting into place, and He's asking you, do you want to join the blessing? Do you want to join me on a blessing trip? Because I've got a plan. I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to make you a great name. And all the nations of the world will be blessed because of you, i.e., Jesus Christ. All the nations, all the world will be blessed of you. And did you ever stop to consider that maybe when God's calling you to get up, to pack up, and to go, it's because He has a plan that's so far out of reach of our own minds, that we would suddenly shrink back in fear and say, there's no way. I can't do that. I'm not worthy. That can't happen. I don't understand. And we come up with all the negatives. And so God just says, trust me. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone who treats you with contempt. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram went. Abram jumped at this chance. God came, presented His thoughts, asked him to trust Him, and Abram jumped at this chance. Look what God has promised him. When you look back through these verses, you see that God's going to be with him. God was going to be with him. God was going to bring him joy. You know, if God says, I'm going to go to the land that I will show you, God's going to be going with him. And I need you to understand that when God calls us to go someplace, He's going to go with us to that place. He's not simply going to say, hey, I need you to go from point A to point B, and hey, have a good time on your trip. God says, I want you to go from point A to point B with me. I want you to go with me, because I'm going from here to here, and I would love it if you would walk with me on that journey. I would love it if you'd go with me, because I've got a plan that you cannot even fathom. of what's going to happen. And my friends, he's got a plan in your heart, in your life, your presence in your neighborhood, your presence in your job, your presence in your school. He's got a plan for your presence to be a blessing to all those around you. If we would simply say, you asked and I'm jumping. If we would just jump off and say, God, yes, I will. Yes, Lord. Yes, I will go. Yes, I will follow you. I don't know where, and that really kind of bugs me a little bit, but I'm going to jump anyway. In those moments, we have to set aside our fear and be living on faith. In those moments, we have to set aside all of our factors that we have to have, all the answers we need, and just say, okay, God, I'm going to go out on faith in this moment. I'm going to trust you in this moment. And I don't know where, and I certainly don't see it, but I will trust you. And God said, I will bring you joy, and you can be a world changer. A world changer. That's what he says. All the nations of the world will be blessed by you. That's not just a family changer. That's just not a localized changer. He's saying, Abram, you can be a world changer. And so can you. So can you. God has plans far beyond our abilities to understand. God has plans far larger than we could dream. God has plans that we can't even comprehend. And so the question simply is this: will you be sensitive to what God is asking of you? And will you jump when God says to go? Will you follow him when he says to go? Because it's all about trust. It's all about trust. And from every experience in my life, some up and some down, what I have found to be true is this: he is trustworthy. I don't always agree with what he wants. Let's be honest, we don't. But he's always faithful and he's always trustworthy. In my way of thinking, things might be negative, but it's because all you and I can see is right now. Oh, we try to plan, and a lot of times we get stuck in yesterday. But the reality is, God sees it all, and we don't see that. And so in my way of thinking, sometimes I look back and go, what I thought was bad really wasn't so bad. What I thought was so bad, God's actually used in a lot of different ways to get me to this point, and it's amazing what God is doing now. So I ask you to not get so focused on the right now, but get focused on the God of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, who never changes, who is always trustworthy, and say, yes, Lord, I will jump. I will jump. I will go. And some of you may be wondering, how is God calling me to jump? He may be calling you to jump spiritually. He may be calling you today to jump spiritually. To say, I know that I have this broken relationship because of all the sin in my life. And I've come to realize today that I get it. I understand that this thing with God is broken. But I trust and believe in Jesus Christ, who died for me to save me from my own self. So God, I believe what Jesus did was not just for everybody else, but it was for me. So God, would you take me and make me and mold me and shape me into the likeness you desired for me? I will give you my heart. I will give you my life. I will give you my tomorrow. I will give you my yesterdays. I will jump. Maybe you need to take a step further in your walk with Christ and to move from just worship to stepping further into Bible study classes, or to step further out of that into an intentional discipleship moment of growth with God. Maybe God's calling you to jump spiritually. God may be calling you to jump physically. To trust Him with that habit, to trust Him with that addiction, to trust Him with that thought life, to trust Him with these things. And He may be saying, I need you to jump, I need you to move from this place to that place. Maybe God's calling you to jump vocationally, that you need to quit the job you've got and take a job that He wants you to take. And it's scary. Anytime you move from one place to another, you don't always know what's coming. Trust me, I know. We don't always know what to expect. All we can do is be faithful to God. Are you? Will you? Are you going to jump? Let's pray.